Or the Jews of today are not the Jews of the Bible, and thus not the Jews, so the blessings don't apply. In fact, we don't have to bless them, we can even hate them. This is used by anti-Semites and by those who don't know any better. Some use what's called the Khazar theory. That's that a people called the Khazars, Turkish people, converted to Judaism in the Middle Ages and basically became those today we know as the Jews. So the Jews of today, in other words, aren't the Jews of the Bible. Well, first, the Khazar theory has been totally debunked. What has been claimed to have happened never happened. There may have been some individuals who converted, but nothing like that legend happened or any substance. On top of that, recent genetic studies have totally disproven it. There is no measurable descent of the Jewish people that comes from the Khazars. And so if the Jewish people are not the Jewish people, then the question has to be asked, then who actually are the Jewish people, or where are the true Jewish people? If you have imposters walking around, then where are the real ones? And wouldn't they sue for identity theft? Where are the real Jewish people? Are they in hiding? Were they put on a witness protection program? Did they get beamed up into a spaceship? Where are they? There were millions of them in the world, ancient times. So where'd they all go? Nowhere, apart from where the Jewish people are today. If the Jewish people weren't the Jewish people would have to be somewhere else, and they're nowhere else. And they don't exist, except in the heads of these anti-Israel or radical or anti-Semitic people. This accusation also begs the question, then what about the people today who are known as the Jewish people? The claim is they're not really the Jewish people. Well, if the Jewish people are not the Jewish people, then who are they? Not just then who are the Jewish people, they're not there, but who are they? And where'd they come from? While the other Jews were beamed up aboard the spaceship, were all these other ones beamed down from a spaceship to replace them? And when did it all happen? When did the fake Jews come to the earth? Was it when the real Jews weren't looking? And did the fake Jews lock the real Jews in a closet, put on yarmulkes, take their place? And who are they? Because they had to have come from somewhere. And we don't have any other ancient people who, numbering in the millions, who suddenly disappear to become the Jews, so they could turn up as that. You see, you need a lot of disappearing acts and a lot of appearing acts, a lot of magic tricks to make it happen. And that begs another question. For the last 2,000 years, the Jewish people have been persecuted as no other people have ever been persecuted. Driven from nation to nation, wandering the earth, hated, oppressed, slaughtered. Who in their right mind would seek to pretend to be Jewish if they weren't Jewish? So they can wander the earth and be persecuted and expelled and ravaged and massacred in one nation after the other. No people would. And guess what? It just happens to turn out, by coincidence, that these Jewish people, who are the Jewish people now, just happen to be the ones on earth who have Jewish traditions that go back to ancient Israel, Jewish blessings and prayers from ancient Israel, Jewish holidays from ancient Israel, Jewish language from ancient Israel. On top of that, there's a definite history that traces their root. You know, like when you have a package to your house and you got a tracking system, you know where the package is, when it left the warehouse, where it is, and when it comes to your door? That's the same package? Well, we've got the tracking on the Jewish people from ancient times to now, when they left the land, where they went on their route, and when they came back to Israel. No, the Jewish people are actually the Jewish people, the same as in the Bible. In fact, genetic technology has also proven it. The Jewish people's, their DNA goes back to the Middle East. It's actually closest to people who live in or around the land of Israel, which is exactly what you'd expect if the Jewish people were in fact the Jewish people, which they are. They even have DNA markers. The Jewish people have DNA markers, some of which have priestly markers for those who have the priestly line of Aaron, that links them back to one man about 3,000 years ago, Aaron, the brother of Moses. I'm one of those people that can trace their history all the way back to Israel. Same culture, same language, same DNA. Look, if it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, swims like a duck, flies like a duck, it's a duck. In this case, the duck is Jewish. In other words, the Jewish people are the Jewish people. On top of that, God himself said it. This is not what I say, what Tucker Carlson says. This is what God himself says, who gives the sun for light by day and the fixed order of the moon and the stars for light by night, who stirs up the seas so that its waves roar. The Lord of hosts is his name. If this fixed order should depart from me, says the Lord, the stars, the moon, the sun, then the descendants, the children of Israel, will cease to be a nation before me. You understand? In other words, they're not going to stop being his people. They're not going to be replaced spiritually or physically. They're going to remain and continue. Therefore, if the Jewish people are in fact the Jewish people from the Bible, and if the Abrahamic covenant is the Abrahamic covenant, then there's only one conclusion. Yes, we are actually to bless Israel and the Jewish people, and we will be blessed.